All right, everybody, so welcome back. It is the day 2 morning. It's like 7 o'clock. Sunrise is just coming up over the mountains here behind me. We've talked about it a couple times. You got to enjoy those sunrises when you get them. But cloudy right now, so she's about to peek out over there. But we are back again. This is a Tisco. It's in the north end. We're actually practicing for a tournament for Jason the following weekend. He asked me to come up. I should have explained this yesterday, I guess. Asked me to come up. We were going to fish for a little bit. He has his championship. Is it 2 days?
Yeah.
2 days on this lake. It's combined weight for the championship, right?
Yep.
So with his club, he has a 2-day combined weight tournament on this lake next weekend. But tomorrow is the last day they can pre-fish. So what he did is he booked a cabin and we came up. We're pre-fishing this weekend, trying to find a pattern that we can put together for next weekend that hopefully will hold. However, with the change in the weather, and you know how erratic it gets sometimes in the fall, some of those patterns fall apart and you got to find something different on the way. So we just came up to the north end. We're doing the exact opposite of what we did yesterday. We stayed in the south end, fished those points, caught some smallies. Now we're in the north end, but that weed bed that we've talked about in countless videos before has kind of died off a little bit because now the water temperature and the weather has gotten cold. So I still have a lot of the same baits I had on yesterday. And probably to start, you're gonna see me throw a rattle trap or an A-rig, and I'm gonna go with that or a silver buddy. Try to see if we can pick a moving bait, like a moving bite apart. And if I can't, or we can't find any last remaining bits of grass or something that the larges are hanging on, then I'll start throwing a Kitech and trying to just find a fish. If I can find a fish, we'll go on from there. So let's see what we can do, try to put a pattern together and figure something out. Stay tuned. Right here. Just settle right down. Yep. Don't. There's a fish. Yep. We just moved. Sorry, guys. We just spot changed. I didn't even start talking. And, Largy, I was talking about the musky tax of paying a musky tax is my joke. My ongoing joke here. Because everywhere you go, you're going to lose a bait. So the musky taxes, when they steal one of your baits, that's what they're taking. And there is a 6-inch largie to start the day. Not really the greatest video starter, but we're gonna make it work. Little largie. There is fish number 1 for Jason. Not bad, jerkbait? Yep. Jerkbait. I started throwing a rattle trap, guys. We're still in that same point that we came through. There's deep weed here, and you can see it probably through the water. It's just starting to die off, and he's bringing a jerkbait across the top of it. So basically, he's throwing the jerkbait across the top, and I am kind of burning a rattle trap to keep it above that grass, and I'm still getting really hung up in it. But that's 2 largies for the day, and God, I can't even, sometimes this weed is so thick, I can't even get it off the jerkbait. Even though it's dying and starting to fall apart, it won't come off. I was throwing an A-rig and keeping it above it just before this, but that was not working even. That was really I'm having a real tough time. The A-rig was even worse. There we go. Sometimes you just really have to reef on it to get the grass to break free on these jerkbaits. But at this point, a wake bait also might work just under the surface or something like that. Obviously, the Kitech worked for me to start. He got one on a jerkbait, a shallow diver. So all of that stuff is gonna work right now. We just kind of have to get the bigger largies to bite. They may be down in it. We might have to go to like a skirted jig or something. All right, guys, so we just pulled up at a point, and I can't make this up. I thought I got hit. I'm throwing the Deraku. I didn't even turn on the camera yet. So I'm throwing the Deraku like you've seen countless times in this video so far. And I thought I got hit, and I slapped at it, and I didn't feel him. And this guy came straight out of 20 feet of water, this small, and he jumped out of the water with my bait in his mouth, and I'm like, oh, I do have him. Like the most my mom moment I've had in a long time. That's funny. We just stopped at this point, and I literally was only throwing, they're right there in front of you, wherever you're at. I was just dropping down. I was talking to Jason. I said, oh, I'm gonna just drop this Deraku down in 30 feet and see if I can get that guy. I can't see your line very well. Okay, I see you now. I see you. I just didn't want to hook you. I was saying, I'm just going to drop down and see if I can get that one out of 30 feet. And I was jerking it, and I thought he hit it, and I was like, oh, well, maybe the blade. Sometimes with these tail spins, the blade, when you lift it and then drop it back down, the blade swings so erratically. Sometimes it'll slap your line, and it feels like a bite because it hits the braid, or it hits your, in my case, I have fluorocarbon leader, but it'll hit the line, and you feel it hit the line, and you think it's a bite, which is what I thought happens. Got him? So I thought that I accidentally hit the blade against my line, and it turns out it was a 6-inch smallie, but he was so small I didn't even realize I had him until he jumped out of the water with my bait in his mouth, and I didn't have it on camera because I'm an idiot. But just so funny, like, I can't even believe that just happened. Do you? Oh, that's not a bad one. Something different. Oh, he's actually not a bad largie at all. They are taking the jerkbait. It's interesting. Yep. 12 inches long. Got one again on the jerkbait. 12 inches long and 1.25 pounds. Yeah. Like, he is just girthy. He's stocking up. They put on the feed bags, guys. That's it. Putting me to shame today. That's 2. If they're that shallow, we need a wake bait. There's one right there. Whoop. All right, it's 3 for 3. He's definitely got the size advantage though. But 3 for 3, and I've got 3 of them that are 8 inches. That's a healthy 8-incher. Oh, Jesus. The largies are not cooperating with size today, guys. That came on the Kitech. I got another one on the Kitech, and I got one on the Deraku, the smallie. So I got 2 largies on a Kitech and a smallie out of like 30 feet on a Deraku that I didn't even know I had hooked. This is the craziest situation. Anyway, so there are largies here, but they're just small, and the big ones aren't eating. Not well. No. All right, guys, another spot change. So what we've done now is come back over to the other side of the lake. So this is the north-south, this is the western shoreline that we started at yesterday, like last evening. But the difference is now we're like halfway up the lake. So we've gone, what, I think it's four or 5 little points up. And when we got up here, you can see the water's super down. So we're on like 5 feet of drawdown basically here. There is giant rock banks. There's obviously a boat lift that's typically underwater that is obviously out of the water. There's a seawall, wooden seawall here. And there's usually this real big weed bed, and you can just catch it right on the edge here. But usually that weed bed is 6 feet off of shore. And now that weed bed is almost dead because it's drying out onshore. That's how far off the shore it is. But the reason the weed bed grows so far off of shore is because this rock bottom gives it a real hard time growing. So there's this big gap because the weeds can't grow in this granite. So you have this gap in between the shore and like the rock wall, and then there's a gap where there's just rock, and then there's 8 to 10 feet of a weed line where the weed can physically grow, and then it drops off so fast. And then basically you can see over here now there are stumps and logs that are sticking out that I did not know were here. So obviously my first plan of attack is I'm going to throw a Kitech at these just to see if I can get something just to pick it up, maybe moving, maybe a little faster. But if not, there's got to be fish. There's nothing. It's all granite for miles, and then 2 logs here in front of us. So there's got to be something stacking near them. Like either it's going to be a permanent resident largie on this side of the lake, or there's going to be smallies that are pulled up next to it. With all this like rock wall and just straight physical rock, there's got to be fish up here somewhere. They're just going to come up and warm up. The sun's up finally. You can see it's finally like starting to hit the rocks. Those rocks are going to warm up a lot quicker than that grass on the other side of the lake that's basically dying. Sorry for the wind. We're on a point. That's just kind of how it works as well. But I'm doing my best to keep you out of it if I can. That was him. That is so funny. So Guys, he had a smallie follow it to the boat, and I said, oh, that's fine, I'm gonna go back down and catch him. Here we are. Oh my gosh, when you get them so green like this, they're just crazy. There we go. That's the biggest one of the day for me, guys. He's all of 12 inches. He followed Jason's spinnerbait right to the boat and then dove down, and I figured I'd get him. I dropped the old Kitech right down on his head. And guess who came back out? That is smallie number 2 for me. So I've got like 2 largies and 2 smallies, but nothing that's really even legal. This guy's like a pound, but he's got mud on his belly, so he's obviously belly right down in the dirt here. Crazy. Woo! All right, guys, so I'm working on conserving battery here a little bit because I accidentally forgot my charger in the campsite. So until we decide if we're going back in or not for lunch or whatever, I'm just kind of like catching fish as I go. But look at the size of this perch. I thought it was a bass that hit it so hard. It's actually bigger than a majority of the bass I've caught today. I'm not even kidding. He's probably 10 or 11 inches, and I've got a bunch of 8s in the boat. So like, this guy has seen some better days. He's got like bit right on the top of his head or something there, but man, that's a big perch. God. Little bit of bait here. There he is. No. Ha! Not any size again still, guys. This guy just came out of 30, what's that, 36.5 feet of water. But again, that Derrick-hoo down there, that blade bait, they can't resist it. But again, just no size. I know you guys probably can't hear me. Let me turn you this way. You can't see the fish as well, but at least you can hear me. Just no size on them. This is another like 8-inch fish. Crazy. All right, guys, so as you can see, we are off the water now, trying to avoid, tuck in here behind the truck, avoid the wind for a little bit for you, so you can actually hear me and figure out what's going on. What did we learn today from this morning? The fish kind of shut down after last night. We went to the north end, fished the flats up there where the weeds had died off, but we weren't actually specifically looking for largies. Like, we weren't trying to find those weeds and fish those weeds. We were actually technically looking for roaming smallies, but we caught no roaming smallies up there. We moved down to the north end point where we did find some live weed, found a couple small largies there. I got 1, 2 largies maybe. Jason got 1 largie that was legal. My one was too small, I'm pretty sure. I'm trying to recollect the day here. So basically we ended up catching 6 or 7, I think I got today, maybe a little more. I think you got 3 or 4, somewhere in that range. So we had some fish, but nothing legal. Everything's super small. Everything was like just weird. It's hard for me to pattern largies this time of year. So basically what we're trying to do is find those points and those transition spots where they're going to be working their way back out to deep water. But out of that north end, there's really only one point, and when we drove over it, we just kind of scanned over it to see if there was any fish there. We never even stopped to fish because we just didn't find that bait ball like we found yesterday. However, as we were working our way back down the lake, we found, when we got back to that bait ball from the night prior, last night's video, there was 2 boats sitting on that bait ball fishing it. So that leads me to believe that they also found that bait ball. So they know that it was there. They were fishing that specifically. So we don't know exactly where all the bait is, but we know where we have to find it. And we know that that first point that we stopped at last night has the bait. So we don't have to technically go back there again unless we just want to catch fish. But what we did today was eliminate water, which is valuable technically, because tomorrow we know that we don't technically have to go back to the north end. We probably won't. especially for that morning bite, we might stop at that first point and try to get that bait ball to fire back up and get those fish around it to fire up, see if we can get 15 or 16 pounds. Because if you can, then you have to decide whether or not that bait ball is going to stay, and if you want to continue to fish it for basically for the next weekend for that tournament. Because if that bait ball is going to stay, then you can try it, but you're putting all your eggs in one bait ball staying on that spot for a week, which is uncommon. That being said, we're going to check out a few more points, like those little mini points, try to find the bait, try to find the fish. We did find them shallow today, but we didn't find a whole lot going on, and none of them had any size shallow. So we're talking only like less than 12 inches shallow, and that one smallie I got right at the end of the video you saw, and a perch. So really nothing to do there. We're gonna wrap this video up now because we're just gonna grab the grill, gonna throw on some burgers, eat some food. It's like noon now, so we did like 5 hours this morning, get some lunch, and then we're gonna head back out later tonight. But because we're kind of doing this stopping period, I'm gonna wrap this up, charge my GoPro batteries, get everything back and rolling, and then we'll see you in the next one. So if you can, hit that subscribe button down below. I appreciate it. It just goes a long way. Like the video, share the video, gets it going. Still trying to push toward that 1,000 subscribers. We're almost there, so I appreciate it if you can. And I guess until next time, just roll that music.